Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Crimes with your host, me, Kella. Shut the door.
What?
Shut that door.
Oh,
thanks, Mom.
hot.
Cherokee Raider.
How do you get the hot version?
Push the top button. It's already on. Now you need to shut the door. All right. I'm glad you're back, Cherokee. All right, you guys, we're going to jump back in and go through some more of Alec Murdaugh's testimony. We've been breaking it down. I didn't go live yesterday. I had a bad headache, so I was like, I'm not even going to attempt it. So we are here. We're going to finish it. And then after we finish going through Alex's testimony, we're going to go back to the beginning because I've had so much feedback on you guys saying that you want to go back and see the beginning, see this case. And I wish I had known that this would have been as interesting as it is to you guys, because we could have covered it the whole time. Like I could have broke it down before the case started so that you guys would know what's going on. It's just one of those Southern scandals that just draws, me in. These are the types of cases that intrigue my mind. So, and I'm going to drop the link. So if anybody wants to commentary the case with me, if you want to commentary the testimony with me, you can. Let's see, present, share screen. Where is everybody at? Everybody at?
State's Exhibit 517, which is the August 11th interview, starting at 5 minutes and 52 seconds. You could pull that clip up, and I want you to listen to this.
Okay. Tell me again what it is.
It's August 11th interview, starting at 5 minutes.
Looks like at least. So this is the August 11th interview that they're going to be playing now.
Minutes and 52 seconds.
All right.
Can you go to 5 minutes and 52 seconds?
We have been.
Who was at your house when you left? And what time did you go to the office?
We have been to a ball game that weekend. I don't remember exactly what time. It would have been somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30, probably 10 o'clock, maybe at the latest, something like that.
Al, on this tape, were you being asked when you went to work on the 7th?
Yes.
And you said 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning?
And then I think it said 10 o'clock at the latest.
Is that correct?
No, it wasn't.
Now I've seen all these records. What does it look like? What time you went to work on the 7th?
A little afternoon.
All right. If we'll go to the Doug State's Exhibit 243, which is the June 10 interview.
And Mr. Griffin, on that same date, I also, if you play that thing, and I don't know if it's right then, but if you play that further, I also told him the best way to see exactly when I went in that door is to go and get my information from my law firm. And I told them that we have how things are electronic now, where you don't have a key, you have a key card, and you have a key card in your wallet. And so when you use it, it creates like all this other stuff, a digital footprint. And I told David Owens that he could go get it from my office.
And was that a common response of yours when you were asked about specific times, that you would give them your best estimate, but you would point them to where they could find the most accurate data?
Yes, sir.
You did that more than once?
Yes, sir.
So if we've got the June 10th interview, which is State's Exhibit 243, and Doug, I'd like to go to 9 minutes and 59 seconds. And here you're being asked, when did Paul arrive at Moselle?
Roughly what time in the afternoon?
I would think it'd be somewhere in the 5 o'clock range, a little bit. It was broad daylight when we were. It wasn't dusk, dark, or late.
Okay.
And we rode. We just rode around. We rode around.
So did you tell him on June 10th that Paul got there at 5 o'clock time period?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I obviously did.
And was that incorrect?
Yes, sir. It was incorrect.
Okay. And what time did you, looking at the records now, what time did it look like Paul actually got there?
And looking at the records, it's clear that he got there sometime around 7 o'clock.
At some point in time, you have a conversation with Shelley Smith about, how long you were over at Alameda on the night of June the 7th. Do you remember?
I don't distinctly remember having a conversation with her about how long I was over there, but I know that I told Shelley Smith that SLED was going to come and talk to her, and that I'd appreciate it if she would talk to them, and that she just needed to tell them the truth.
And did you take extra care not to talk to people that you knew SLED would be talking to?
Absolutely.
And why is that?
After this boat wreck that you've heard so much talk about in this courtroom, there were social media, newspaper. It went deeper than that, but there was so much talk about how I, fixed witnesses and structured the investigation, just things that were totally false, that were absolutely baseless, but it was said repeatedly. It was reported repeatedly how I'd done this and with this witness and influenced this police officer and all these things. So I wasn't taking any chances.
I want to ask you about, you can take that down, Doug. Thank you. Ask you about the August 11th interview with David Owen at the SLED office in, I think, here in Walterboro. Do you remember that?
August 11th, absolutely.
Had you requested that meeting?
I've been requesting, what I'd really been requesting is some information. I've been begging David Owens to come meet with me, and specifically I wanted Grandma, Papa T. There were so many questions that I couldn't answer. And I've been begging him to meet with me and to meet with Grandma and Papa T. I've been begging him for weeks and weeks.
course I'm muted. All right. So we're at the part where the lies that he told to the officers are going to start being questioned. And he talks about that he had, talked to people that he knew would be questioned by the SLED officers. And the fact that he just talks about how there was so many rumors going on, that he had fixed this whole scenario. He had talked to, hi Robert, he had talked to all of these people, and these rumors are being formed. Well, there's lots of rumors around this case, but that is based off of your character and what people know about you. So when you have that name and you carried that name, and people know what you will do, to keep your name clean, yeah, they're going to talk about you, especially in a town this size. Hey, Crazy Mama and Katie, and wait, I thought you was taking the night off, Katie, and Killshot. Thank y'all for coming. All right.
And did, when we went into the meeting on August 11th, did you think that's what it was for? To give you an update?
Yes.
And at the conclusion of the meeting, they let you know that you're their prime suspect.
Ms. Griffin?
I'll rephrase it. By the conclusion of the meeting, did they make it known to you that you were suspect?
Oh, there's no question about that. Absolutely. Now, he used a lot of, you hear it talk about how I'm in this circle and he can't get me out and this and that, but there's no doubt in my mind. There was no question in my mind what was going on.
And and during that meeting, did they show you the Snapchat video of you trying to stand up the fruit tree?
Yes.
And were you questioned about what clothing you were wearing?
And I can't remember this. I can't remember if he showed me the whole video or he showed me a picture of it. But I was definitely showed that information. I was definitely shown those clothes in that meeting on August the 11th.
And what clothes were you wearing?
The same ones you see in.
And do you remember what kind of pants?
It was khaki pants.
And what kind of shirt?
It's a button down, short sleeve button down. I call it a dress shirt, but short sleeve button down dress shirt.
Like shirt you got there, but just short.
Just
sleeve.
like this, but short sleeve, and it was colored.
And what color was it?
Blue with some blue stripes.
And were you questioned about when you changed out of those clothes?
I was.
And did you have a follow-up? Did you have a conversation after that meeting with SLED with Blanca about what you were wearing that day?
Absolutely.
And what was the purpose of the conversation with Blanca?
Well, they made an issue about that in that meeting, and I asked Blanca about those clothes that I had on earlier that day.
Did you ask her specifically about the blue shirt?
I asked her specifically about all the clothes.
Okay.
What I asked Blanca about specifically was, did she remember getting my clothes after she came back, when she came back to Moselle, did she remember getting my clothes, specifically what I asked her?
I see. And why were you asking her those questions?
Because on August the 11th, they had made an issue about me still wearing those clothes, not having changed clothes when I was in that Snapchat video. So that's why I went to Blanca.
Did they ever ask you on August?
Okay, so Kay Hopper, thank you for joining us. And for so long, I hate to admit this, I thought Mr. Alec Murdaugh was guilty 3 years ago. Or 2 years ago, whatever. I thought he was guilty. And some parts of me still think that he's guilty. But I feel like he's not as guilty as he was when this case started, or when the trial started. I kind of feel like he knows the truth. I feel like he may have been the getaway for the person that done this. I haven't completely ruled him out by any means. Like, I still feel like ATF. I still feel like he definitely is corrupt. Oh, I didn't see Sway. Sway, hello. Sled lied on three important things to the grand jury to get an indictment. So what because I'm from the South, I have followed this case. Like, I remember this case when it happened. But I didn't cover it here because it wasn't like I didn't start my YouTube journey in time to cover it. But the case I've been watching, and when I started watching it, I was only able to like catch bits and pieces of it. But I got sucked into Alex's testimony, and I wanted to discuss the testimony, and then it kind of, hey Megs, now people are wanting to know more about it. So after we finish with Alex's testimony, we're going to go back to the beginning and break this trial down. And you guys, there's a lot that your mind will probably change a couple of times during going back and forth on this trial. And I'm going to try to get it done before the jury makes a decision. Now, he talks about the Snapchat video and the clothes being changed and letting Blanco know and all of that good stuff. So, he's going to talk about why his clothes are different than in the Snapchat video, I believe. And I need to get that Snapchat video. I think that they play it in the beginning of the case. But you guys, he was, the fact that he was there in that Snapchat video does make you question some things. So let's listen to some more of what Alec Murdaugh has to say. Oh my gosh.
It's the 11th, whether, they ask you for those clothes. Can you produce the clothes? Do they ask you that?
No, they didn't.
Have they ever asked you for those clothes?
No. As far as my understanding goes, my clothes were never an issue in this case until y'all figured out, as my lawyers figured out, that there was no blood spatter on me.
Sir?
Is that objection, Your Honor?
Reason for the objection.
401, 402, and beyond in speculation, Your Honor.
Mr. Griffin,
It's a matter of public record. It's a matter of public record.
what is?
The issues with the shirt and the blood test
It's a matter of public record.
filed in this case, yes, sir.
The objection's overruled.
I'm well aware that my clothes never became an issue in this case until my lawyers proved that this blood spatter that they said I had on my shirt from my wife and my son was a lie, and that there was no blood on my shirt. And once they filed the documents and they proved that that was a lie, all of a sudden, the clothes I was wearing back on that day became an issue.
I would take note on that, you guys. But this is what I'm saying. Like, I don't understand how he can just talk about all of this stuff on the stand. Like, he's like, straight up, I am fully aware that my clothes were not in question until my lawyers. And that to me is odd. Like, that would be like one. Art. That would be like one of the biggest things you would think would have been questioned at the very, very beginning. And that his lawyers wouldn't have to bring that into the existence of this case.
And that's in the weeks leading up to this trial.
No. Alec, after the Maggie and Paul were murdered on June 7th and 8th, where did you stay and where did you keep clothes?
Right. Say that again, please.
Where were you staying overnight? Well, let me ask you this. Did you ever spend another night at Moselle after June 7th?
Never spent another night at Moselle.
Why not?
Could've. Didn't want to.
Okay.
That kind of like, that felt sincere. Do y'all feel like that was a sincere statement? Like, he really, before his arrest, could not go back and stay in that house. I agree, Hopper. I just feel like in that part right there where he says, I couldn't stay there, I feel like he's sincere.
Where were you staying when we talked about the days and weeks, the week afterwards, but where were you staying when you got back from the lake, Kiowee and Greenville?
I stayed. All right, so when I got back from Greenville, so that would be the, all right, be first week, been doing my dad's funeral, then, all right, so that'd be the second week. All right, so after I know Bus and I stayed with Grandma and Papa T as much as I could. You know, I stayed with, I stayed with my brother Randy a lot. I stayed with my brother John a lot. Bus and I stayed at Edisto a little bit. But at the beginning, I really stayed with either my brother Randy and his wife Christy, or I stayed with my brother John and his wife Lizzie. And basically at that time, Buster was doing, Buster worked for Wild Wing at that time, and they had been so kind to him and they let him be off just for a ridiculous amount of time. They were so good to him that he stayed with me. When he had to go back to work, he would stay at my brother John and Lizzie's because it was close. So I would stay with Randy and Christy in Hampton. When Buster was there, I would almost always go to John and Lizzie's when Buster was there. I would go to John and Lizzie sometimes when Buster wasn't there. But Johnny Parker, one of my partners, had a guest house his mother-in-law had lived in when she was sick. That's really, it's right at the foot of Randy's drive. It's 100 yards, 70 yards from Randy's house. And I was going to move into that house until we figured out where I could live. So I had clothes there. I had clothes at Randy's. I had clothes at John Marvin's. I had clothes at Chichesi, which is, I think you heard Buster talk about Chichesi's, like where we went to the river, and I had clothes there. I had clothes in Somerville, and I still had clothes at Moselle.
So you're close. Yes, sir.
Last question.
No, were your clothes spread out? A lot of different places.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll break for lunch and return in an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay, so they're going to lunch. I'm going to fast forward through the lunch part. I feel like this case could have been wrapped up if we didn't have all of this extra details of things.
Proceed.
I want to go to June the 7th, 2021, in your meeting with Gene Seckinger.
Okay.
Do you remember meeting with Seckinger?
I do.
And what was the meeting about?
Jeannie came up to me and asked me, previously Annette Griswold had come to me and asked me about the fee check in the Ferris case. And Jeannie was coming to me and saying that she was following up on that. If she didn't, she wouldn't be doing her job, and asked me some questions,
Well, let me ask you
which I understood.
briefly, the Ferris fee, what originally happened to it? The PMPED portion of the Ferris fee.
I mean, originally,
Yes, sir. Did it come to you directly?
yes,
Should have come to you directly.
no.
Did, when Ms. Seconder asked you about where the fee was, what'd you tell her?
I can't remember exactly what I told her. The conversation got interrupted very quickly, but I told Jeannie that the funds were in Chris Wilson's account and nothing to worry about. I didn't know where the mix-up came.
What was your level of concern about Ms. Seconder's inquiry to you on June the 7th?
There was some level of concern because she's asking me about money that I took that I wasn't supposed to have. So certainly I had some level of concern, but it wasn't a big concern. As you heard testimony earlier, at some point Annette Griswold had sent Chris Wilson an email, something to the effect of Alec thinks he has more expenses or something like that, seeking financial documents from Chris Wilson. When Chris Wilson I wasn't copied on that, but when Chris Wilson got that, Chris Wilson called me up and he's like, what is this all about?
Pardon?
I said objection rules 801 and 802.
Response?
Your Honor, I'm not asking for what Chris Wilson said, and I'll move on. I accept the objection. Were you concerned about Chris Wilson opening his trust account records to your law firm?
No, I was not concerned about that at all.
And why were you not concerned?
I knew that one of the people that Chris Wilson.
Okay, so they are talking about the financial issues again, the money laundering, embezzlement schemes. So if you're confused as to what they're talking about now, that's what they're talking about. It doesn't necessarily have to do with the murders, but we'll see. And Hopper, that makes sense. I didn't think about that. Some small towns get you.
As you heard, Chris Wilson and I were very close. We talked every day. I did work with him all the time. And I mean, he was one of the people closest to me in the whole world. I knew everything about him. And I knew he was going through one of his partners, and he and his partner had split up. A partner and an associate had moved to a firm in Charleston. The partner was going through a divorce. And the wife of the partner was trying to get Chris Wilson's trust documents in that case to find out money her husband got. It didn't have anything to do with Chris and I or anything. It totally had to do with that. But I knew that Chris Wilson was not going to send any financial documents to Murm, at least at that time, and at least not anytime soon. So while I'm sure it registered with me that I got to deal with this, at that particular time, it wasn't anything that was a big deal.
Was there an immediate urgency to the situation on June the 7th?
No.
And I believe there's Ms. Seconder testified about your conversation with her. You learned that your dad was going back in the hospital.
That's correct. There was a text. I can't remember if that text came from my brother Randy or my brother John, but they were the ones that were taking my dad back to the hospital that day. And whichever one was with him, I believe it's John was with him at the hospital, but I know Randy was with him at some treatment. It's in those documents. But bottom line is, we got a text saying, we knew my dad was really sick. He had cancer and he couldn't breathe. And there was a big issue about whether his inability to breathe was coming from an obstruction caused by the cancer, which was the worst case scenario. And that's what it ended up being ultimately. And that's what he died from. But this particular text was saying, okay, we're putting him back in the hospital. The doctor thinks it's pneumonia, and which was, pneumonia is never a good thing, but when compared to cancer, at that time, pneumonia, that was a good thing to learn that.
So on the 7th, where the information you had, you believe at that time that the prognosis was pretty positive for your father?
Well, it was better than the alternative. I'm not going to say it was good, but it was better than the alternative and what we previously thought it was. It didn't stay good very long, but it definitely was better.
Do you know whether or not you told Ms. Seconder that that your dad's condition was terminal on the 7th? Do you remember whether you said that or not?
No, I wouldn't have said that at that time. And what Jeannie, as soon as the thing comes through that my dad's going in the hospital, Jeannie and I, as you heard, she stopped the meeting. We stopped it. It lasted a couple minutes. Now, my dad's going in the hospital, and the very next day, we learned that he's terminal. And I'm just sure that a year or the amount of time that's gone by, Jeannie assumed she was terminal. He was terminal.
Speculation, Your Honor.
Objections overruled.
Mr. Murdaugh,
Speculation. How is it speculation when it's what happened? His dad was terminal. I guess because it was said before they knew he was terminal.
on June the 7th, did you believe that your financial house of cards was about to crumble?
On June the 7th?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely not.
Had you had, and I think there's documented evidence, state interviews, had you reached out to Russell Lafitte at Palmetto State Bank about extending a line of credit on the Moselle property?
Yeah, I had reached out to him. I can't remember the date of that text, but it was fairly recently. I had reached out to Russell.
And on June 7th, did you have equity in the Moselle property or you and Maggie had equity in that Moselle property?
Sure. And Moselle was fully in Maggie's name.
Okay.
But yes, there was equity in Moselle. In looking at the documents that had been used, there was $1,800,000 owed. There was an appraisal for $3.3 million without timber value. And so on 1,700 acres, I don't know what the timber value was, but if you just set $1,000 an acre, that'd be another $1,000,000-something in value over and above the appraisal. I doubt the timber value was that high. I'm just using that as an example. But if it was 500, it'd be another $800,000. So, there was several $1 million in equity in that Moselle property.
All right. And did you have equity in the Edisto Beach House?
Yes.
And around June 7th, how much equity did you have in the Edisto Beach House?
If I remember the records correctly, there was about $250,000 owed on that house, and whatever the value was at the time. I think there's a contract for just under $1 million, so $700 and something thousand.
Did Maggie's death make it more difficult to obtain financing immediately after the murder around June 7th, 8th?
Maggie's, yes.
How so?
Because the entire Moselle property was 100% in Maggie's name. The Edisto property was 50% in Maggie's name. So I was only a half owner. So with Maggie, all I had to do is get her to sign the documents, which she always did. She didn't question finances. So, she signed the papers. When Maggie wasn't here, there was a state issue.
I got questions. Why? Why wouldn't Maggie question things? Why would she just sign papers? I'm not signing my name on any legal document until I know what I'm signing. Especially when it comes to things like that. So why wouldn't she have questioned any of the finances? That's what a wife is supposed to do. Could it be that I mean, I don't know. That one I'm just not. I know, but Sway, like, I'm still going to question, especially, I mean, the house is fully in her name. Okay, if the house is completely in my name, and I mean, I don't work, so we have this situation here. Okay, I don't work, but the house is not solely in my name. But if the house was solely in my name, I'm going to question everything that comes across that could potentially go up against my house. Okay, I'm watching the beginning here, and he said he told the lady watching the mom that Sled might come talk to her. He did not discover their bodies until after that visit. I think he slipped up. So, I'll have to go back and pinpoint that part in the video, Miranda, because I don't remember exactly how it was worded at this point. But yes, he did question. That was Blanco, I think, or Jessica. Can't remember which one he said that to. I'll have to listen back, but I'll get back with that one, Miranda.
Issues. I couldn't go and sign the papers like I would normally go and get a loan. So I couldn't.
Was there a hearing scheduled in the voting lawsuit where you were a defendant set for that week?
Yes.
Do you remember what day it was scheduled for?
Well, I've heard the testimony, and I'm sure I knew at the time it's June the 10th, Thursday, June the 10th.
What was your level of concern about that hearing coming up on June the 10th?
About that hearing?
Yes, sir.
My level of concern about that hearing was about the venue motion that was coming up, which,
What do you mean by venue?
the venue motion is where a civil lawsuit is pending. And so there's laws and rules that govern where you can bring a case. There's laws and rules that govern how certain parties, a defendant or plaintiff, can go about trying to move it from one place to another. So in this case, the plaintiffs, the Beach family, had filed suit in Hampton County. Parker's was trying to move venue to Beaufort County. And I wanted the case to stay in Hampton County. And really, that was my only thought about. I wasn't doing the legal work on those. I was a party in that case. I wasn't. Danny Henderson was primarily representing me personally. John Tiller and Amy Bauer were representing me personally. And Dawes Cook was representing me personally. And those are the guys that were doing the legal work. So, I wasn't actually doing that work. But what I was concerned about was the venue motion. I had already done what I had to do for the financial motion. And Danny Henderson was on me about getting him a financial statement because.
Let's stop. So there was a motion to compel and seek a lot of financial records from you. Was that correct?
Absolutely.
And were you concerned that your financial house was going to be opened up for the world as a result of that hearing?
No. I've been a plaintiff's lawyer like Mr. Tinsley that sat here. We do the same exact thing. In my law firm, the guys in my law firm are some of the best lawyers that I've ever known. and they're definitely some of the best lawyers in the state, handling some of the biggest cases that have ever gone on in this state. In my 27 years of practicing, plaintiffs always are trying to look and get financial documents of corporate defendants, of, those type things. In my 27 years, I've never been able to get a judge to order anything more than a net worth statement prior to getting into a phase at trial. So early on in the case, I am not aware of, I personally have never, despite trying repeatedly, have never been able to get a judge to order the kind of information that Mark Tinsley was saying he was seeking.
Were you working on a document for that upcoming hearing?
Yes,
And what was that?
a financial statement. A financial statement lists your assets and your liabilities.
And had you reached out to Jeannie Seconder later the day on the 7th to get your current balance of your retirement account?
I don't remember doing that, but that'd certainly be something that I did. And because I know I'd have to have that for that financial statement. And the document that I prepared was what Mark Ball talked about that he found later in my office. And it was it was handwritten, ready to be typed up by, because of the charges against Paul, I kept everything very close in the civil case. It was Danny in his office. It was doing it. And I had that document prepared, handwritten in the neatest handwriting that I could make, because a secretary other than mine, a paralegal other than mine, was going to be the person who was going to put that financial information into the final document. And that's the document that Mark Ball talked about that he found on my desk whenever it was that he found it. So that was what was going to be, if necessary, what was going to be used Thursday.
Now, jury's heard about testimony of you stealing client funds. Did you do that?
I did.
Did you steal or divert that Ferris fee away from the law firm?
I did.
How did you get in such a financial predicament that led you to steal money that wasn't yours?
No, I'm not quite sure how I let myself get where I got, but it came from, I battled that addiction for so many years. I was spending so much money on pills. I got in a spot I couldn't.
Now, what type of addiction are you referring to?
My addiction is to opiate painkillers,
And when
specifically oxycodone, OxyContin.
And when did you first become dependent or addicted to opioids?
Oxycodone or opiates in general.
Opiates in general?
I'm not quite sure of the exact date, but I can give you a time frame. I hurt my knee really bad playing football in college, and I had a knee surgery. And the medical science at the time was such that the surgery didn't work, bottom line. So it just didn't last. So within a couple of years of that, I started having a lot of knee troubles. And ultimately, I had to have a couple of surgeries. But the last surgery I had was, I think, around 2002 or 4. And I think it was around 4. So I would have started taking hydrocodone a couple of years before that. And I took hydrocodone, got addicted to that very quickly. I continued taking that for a long time. I'd force myself off of it, wean myself off of it. I'd go back to it. I battled that for a long time. And after a while, I was taking so much of that, I moved on to oxycodone. And, I'm guessing that was around 2000. That transition was around 2008, 9, something like that. And of course, it just escalates. And
Did you receive treatment or go to detox on occasion?
I did.
How many times?
That I went to detox or that I detoxed?
Well, let's start with going to a detox facility.
I've been to a detox facility 3 times.
When was the first time?
December of 2017.
And before December 2017, had you tried to detox at home?
I tried to detox everywhere I could.
When you,
Maggie would help me. Go ahead.
yeah, when you went in to a, was it inpatient facility?
The detoxes, the formal detoxes that I
Yeah,
went to.
in December of 2017.
Yes, it was it was inpatient. And all three formal detoxes that I've done have been at the same facility called Sunrise Detox in Atlanta, Georgia.
And is,
Very good
is
facility.
jury's heard a audio tape of a telephone conference with SLED agents. Was that where you were during that meeting with Mr. Harpootli and I?
That's correct.
The first time you went to the detox in Atlanta, how long of a stay is that? Did you stay?
7 days is the opiate detox program.
And is there a difference between detox and rehab?
Yes.
What's the difference?
Detox is it's the act of getting the drugs out of your system, getting to the point where, okay, there is no longer a physical dependency, all right? And that's a big difference than the rest of the dependency, but the physical dependency is supposed to be gone after 7 days. So in other words, there's so many things. Opiate withdrawal is, it's hard. But supposedly at the end of 7 days, you don't have those physical symptoms like, I don't want to be too graphic, but you're sick, you throw up, you have terrible diarrhea, you sweat like you're running a marathon, you can't hold your legs still, you can't lay down. Now, like what I'm talking about, the legs moving, that goes away after about 24 hours. So, after about 24 hours, you can lay down again and maybe sleep some, but you sweat, you throw up. You just have, there's so many issues, but after 7 days, those are supposed to be over. That's what detox is, the detoxification of your body.
And what's rehab?
So, yes, Wheezy 3 times. He literally, Megan, are you driving? You guys, he's 50 some years old. That's a long time to have been on pills. And, he would come off of them, but he would go back. Like his urge to eat those tablets was just more than, that's the sad reality of addiction, is that the demons are stronger than you. It definitely sounds like he had support through all the times that he, tried to come off of them at home. But unless you have, I don't know how many of you have experienced someone with drug addiction and what their body goes through when they are trying to detox. It's not a wise decision to try to do it at home. A lot of people die during withdrawals, which is why it's best to do it in a detox center. And honestly, from what I know, a detox center is not enough. You need that rehab. And then you still need to follow up with, like if you're an alcoholic, you would follow up with AA. And they have those programs for other addictions as well. So, like, I've never detoxed from opioids. Sorry, I just realized my camera's not on. I've never detoxed from opioids, but about 7 years ago, I had this amazing doctor who helped me with my migraines and made such amazing progress. And then she left the practice and they wouldn't tell me where she had went to. And the doctor that replaced her would not refill my medicine without seeing her, but her first available appointment was like 2 months. So I had to detox on my own from my antidepressants. And at the time, I didn't realize what was going on because I'd never experienced any kind of withdrawal. But I was certain by day 3, day 4 that I was going to lay there and die. It was horrible. So I can't imagine what someone would have to experience 20 some years of opioid abuse.
Rehab is the period that you go to learn how to stay off. You know, you're supposedly off after detox. Rehab is where you get help staying off.
And before September 2021, had you ever gone to that second stage of rehab?
No,
So in December 2017, how long did it take you to relapse once you got home from detox?
not long at all. I mean, you're still going through, you know, this physical dependency is gone. You still have, I mean, you're still so sick. I mean, you just,
Is that something you've been battling for quite some time?
as long as I can remember.
How long have you been drug-free, opioid-free?
535 days. And I'm very proud of that.
I want to ask you questions about Labor Day weekend 2021.
Okay.
You remember being confronted by your law firm?
Sure I did.
And what were you confronted about?
Stealing money.
And did you admit your misconduct to your law partners?
Well, to one of my law partners and my brother and my law partners, Danny and Randy. Yeah, I mean,
Did-
admit it.
And
Now.
they learned about a fake forge account. Did you admit to the fake forge account?
Yes, I did.
And did you tell them about your opioid struggles, opioid addiction?
I told him about my addiction. Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, were any of your law partners aware of your addiction?
Not just to my knowledge. I'm certain that they were not aware of my addiction.
How would you characterize your opioid use or addiction? Severe, moderate?
Then or now?
No, in 2020, 2021?
I mean, I don't know how I would have characterized it then. After going to rehab and learning, it's more the things I've learned, really talking to addicts about experiences. I mean, I will tell you that my addiction was extremely, extremely bad.
How were you able to function? Or were you able to function?
Yes, I was able to function.
You were able to practice law?
Yes,
And were you successful practicing law while you were addicted to opioids?
on some level, yes, sir. I was successful. I mean,
After you were confronted on Labor Day weekend 2021, did you resign or were you forced to resign from the law firm?
absolutely.
And then on Saturday, September the 4th, do you remember what happened that day?
Saturday, September 4th. Yes, sir. I remember.
And what happened?
Start when I woke up.
Well, let's start after you met with Chris Wilson. Did you meet with Chris Wilson?
I met with Chris Wilson at my mom's and dad's house in Alameda.
And did you lay it out for Chris Wilson, your opioid addiction and your misconduct?
I definitely laid out my addiction. I definitely gave him some details about monies that I'd taken. We didn't go into all the details about all of it, but I certainly was very candid with him about the things that involved him.
Had you already just contacted the detox facility before you met with Chris Wilson on the 4th?
I believe that we had already, at that point, I believe that we had already spoken to the guy that I knew from Sunrise and made arrangements for me to go there on Monday.
Okay. And
I know we had arrangements for me to go there on Monday, and I'm sure we had to have had it by then because I went to the hospital shortly after that. So yes,
and did you reach out to Blanca to get your insurance information?
I did.
And for what purpose?
because I was going to use my insurance at detox and rehab to help pay for it.
And what was your immediate plans after, I mean, for the day after you met with Chris Wilson? Did you have plans to do anything, have any other meetings on that Saturday?
I wanted to go and meet with Corey Fleming, who was another lawyer who was affected by the things I did,
And did you
and a good friend.
go meet with Corey Fleming?
No,
What'd you do instead?
I'd given when I gave my pills to my brother, Randy and Danny, I think I gave them to Randy, but I took a lot of pills because I knew I wasn't going to be taking anymore. So Randy had my pills. I had to get some from him the night before, but I only got a small amount. I could tell, I wasn't taking anything near like what I had been taking, so I knew it was coming. And I called someone to bring me more pills. And I believe before I met with Chris Wilson.
And did you meet did the person you called bring you more pills?
I don't know if he brought me more pills or not, because by the time I met with him, after meeting with Chris and after, the starting of the withdrawals, I changed my plans.
And what was the change in plans?
Not to get pills from him anymore. And instead, I asked him to shoot me.
Did you ask him to shoot you as a sympathy ploy, or did you want?
As a sympathy
die?
ploy?
Yes, sir. Why did you
No.
ask him to shoot you? What was the end goal that you wanted to accomplish?
I meant for him to shoot me so I'd be gone.
And who was this? Who did you ask to do this?
Eddie Smith,
And did he in fact shoot you?
he did.
And where was that located? Not your gunshot, but where were you shot in Hampton and Colleton County? Where were you?
It's Hampton County. It's right on the border of Salkehatchie Road. It runs right along the Salkehatchie River.
And why did you want to be gone?
I mean, I knew all this was coming to a head. I knew how humiliating it was going to be for my son. I mean, I'd been through so much. At the time, in the bad place that I was, it seemed like a better thing to do. I don't think that way now, thankfully, but
Right.
I did at the time.
Did you have life insurance on you?
Oh, yeah, I had a lot of life insurance.
And who was the beneficiary?
Maggie was the beneficiary.
How much life insurance did you have?
I had $12 million. I had a $4 million policy and an $8 million policy, a total of 12.
Did you ever have any life insurance on Maggie?
No, never.
$12 million life insurance. Like, how much a month does that cost? $12 million. And where did Eddie shoot him? I mean, I know it was in Hampton County, but like on his body, like I didn't know about this. I didn't know. I missed this part of it. I mean, this was before. Or maybe it's not. $12 million. So now, I don't think he still has a $12 million life insurance policy. I doubt he has that kind of life insurance policy now. But if he did, then that's going to go to Buster. And I'm not sure what happens with Maggie or Paul's life insurance policy now. Maybe it depends on the end of. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works.
You ever had any life insurance on Paul?
No.
Oh, he didn't have any on Paul.
Alex, will you tell the story about Maggie and your relationship with her?
Y'all saw a picture. She was just as beautiful inside as she was outside. And
Yeah, I'm gonna run it back. Because I missed it too.
Alex, will you tell the story about Maggie and your relationship?
no, $1 million policy. Maggie was the beneficiary.
How much life insurance did you have?
I had $12 million. I had a $4 million policy and $12 million and an $8 million policy, a total of 12.
Did you ever have any life insurance on Maggie?
No, never,
You ever have any life insurance on Paul?
no.
So I thought that there was like big insurance policy. Why would he never have had insurance on his wife? Like his son is 22 at the time, so I can understand if he doesn't have insurance on him. So I've been under the wrong impression for a very long time that he had like major life insurance policies on Maggie and Paul. So I'm admitting I'm wrong, or I was wrong. I stand corrected. Yeah, like I have insurance on all of my kids, but Fisher's life insurance, we don't have like big life insurance policies on them. Like Cody had, I thought Cody's life insurance policy was big. But it ain't even 100,000. I mean, it's not even $1 million policy. So I can't imagine $12 million. Like, and I think mine is like $350,000. So yeah, that's not enough motive for me to kill somebody. And as much money as they have, I can't understand why he didn't have insurance policy, at least on Maggie, especially at her age. But he's smart enough to know that, you know, car accidents happen. You die of a heart attack at any time. You know, there's so much that could have happened. And I guess he figured he had enough money that he could bury her and didn't need to have a life insurance policy. Sway, that's very, very Very possible, you guys. Could have all been coming to a head, all of his lies.
Alex, will you tell this jury about Maggie and your relationship with her?
Y'all saw a picture. She was just as beautiful inside as she was outside. And I mean, she was so adventurous. I mean, you couldn't tell her something was good or bad. And she wanted to find out for herself. She wanted to do it, see it, experience it on her own and form her own opinion. She was devoted. Those two boys, Buster, Paul, me. I mean, she made sure we didn't want for anything ever. Fun, playful. I mean, she had a laugh that, you didn't even have to know what was funny. If you heard her laugh, you would laugh. She had this little playful look where she'd smile at you and bite her lip. I can't do it, but I mean, when she would just do it, it just melts you. She was such a lady.
She would smile and bite her lip and bite her lip. That was probably a detail you should have left out. I think he's done a little bit of a better job than. Yeah, I think he's done a better job than Amber Heard did. I mean, he has a pretty good description of her. Most men couldn't describe their wife in that aspect. Or any woman for that matter.
Such a feminine person, a girl, but then she had two boys. And I mean, she didn't grow up in the swamp and in the country, riding four-wheelers and hunting and fishing. And I mean, she changed everything. She became a boy's mom. I mean, her life became ball and riding four-wheelers and, I mean, doing those things. Now, don't get me wrong, she was still 100% girl. And you heard Marion say, I mean, she'd love to do those things with her nieces, but I mean, she threw herself into her boys' life. I mean, she never took not working for granted. I mean, she might not have worked, but I promise you, she worked. And she worked to make sure me and Paul and Buster had everything. She wanted a big family, and pregnancy just didn't suit her. I mean, her pregnancies were so hard. I would leave her in the mornings and she'd be sick. I'd come home and check on her and she'd be sick. I'd come back at the end of the day and she'd be sick. I mean, she was so sick all the time with both those boys. And when we had Paw, Maggie got in trouble and Paw got in trouble. And just pregnancy didn't suit her. So we decided that, we would just have the two boys. And, I just think how hard it was on her, just made her love those boys so much more. And she did. But she was the kind of person, Maggie, she could put on the most elegant ball gown and go to the governor's mansion and hang out with, the most affluent people, whatever. Or she could come down to, she could go to a food bank in Hampton or Walterbur and fit in. Everybody at both places would say when she left, and that Maggie, she's a good one. She's just a special person.
Alec,
Very special person.
would you ever do anything to harm Maggie?
I would never hurt Maggie. Ever.
Will you tell the jury about Paul, please, and your relationship with him?
And Paul, Paul was just the brightest. He was bright. He's the most inquisitive young man. He wanted to be a part of everything. If you were working, I can remember as a little boy, you'd be working on something. It didn't matter what it was. His little head was going to come in there, his nose in there to see what you were doing. He was a man's man. He was 100% country boy. He was tough. I mean, he could hunt anything. He could catch any fish. He could run any piece of equipment. He could use any tool. He could do anything. At 22 years old, he could do so many things. He took care of so many, and he was so tough. But on the other hand, he had a side to him that was just so sweet. He wouldn't come home. He wouldn't go check on his grandparents. He wouldn't go near Somerville where he wouldn't go out of his way to check on his grandparents. To be such a tough person, he would get all his buddies and get on a boat and go watch the sunset. How many 22-year-old people do stuff like that? He was such a special boy. He cared about people. He was fiercely loyal. He was so misrepresented in the media. Never an accurate story told about what he was. And I'll challenge you right now. I would challenge everybody in this room to go find somebody that knew Papa, who really knew him, that did not have an ulterior motive, that would say something negative about him. And I challenge everybody who can hear me now to do that. Paul was that kind of person. If you knew him, he would help you, and he would be glad to help you. I thought Mark Ball made a good point when he said, Paul might not have quite found his place yet. Paul was ADHD, and so he would jump around from thing to thing a lot. But there's absolutely no question in my mind whatsoever that Paul would have found whatever that thing was that he was going to do. And whatever that ended up being, he was going to be one of the best at it that you've ever known. And I'll tell you one more thing. And I didn't even know this when Paul was alive. But, excuse me. When they were doing his eulogy, I gave the names of some of his friends. And he had a real cute friend that they were just friends, but a girl that Maggie adored. I didn't know her very well, but Maggie did. Maggie adored her, but they talked to her, and Papa, we learned this from her, Julianne. And at 22 years old, I learned, Papa would tell his friends, be present, appreciate where you are, the things you have, and the people around you. I think a lot of that came from it hurt Paul so bad when Mallory died. But 22-year-olds, do you know that think that way? Be present, appreciate things around you. At 22 years old,
Alec,
he's the most special boy.
you love Paul?
And I love him like no other. He and Buster.
You love Maggie?
More than anything. Love Maggie from the first time we went out.
Did you kill Maggie?
No, I did not kill Maggie. I did not kill Paul. I would never hurt Maggie, and I would never hurt Paul, ever, under any circumstances.
Thank you. Please answer any questions the state may have.
Sir. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we'll take a, we'll take a 10-minute recess. Please do not discuss the case.
All right. So yes, Miranda. Moselle was in Maggie's name. So that could be like the life insurance policy for him. It was if something happened to Maggie. That's a good point, Miranda. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't think about that. Yes, Bob, that was gross. I was not too thrilled with the extra bodily fluids there. But we just seen it in all its glory. So that leaves us with the end of these questions. And so we will move along to the next part. Right? That was trigger warning. We'll move along to the next part. We'll finish it up. I think we can probably finish this episode up tomorrow. Yeah. Because it's about an hour and a half more to go. So that would finish it up tomorrow night, you guys. Because it's already 10 o'clock and I gotta go to bed. Because I did not want to get up today. Yeah. So hopefully my video will be finished tomorrow, the pre-recorded one that gives you the backstory of the Murdaugh family. I'm hoping to wrap it up tomorrow. I did quite a bit of it today, so shouldn't take much more. And that will help if you are just now learning the background or learning this case. So that'll give you the background of it, okay? And then once we finish with Alex's testimony, we'll go back to prosecution and what they brought to the table. So, you guys, I appreciate you for joining me. I love y'all. Bob, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want none of it though. But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. I will see y'all on the other side. Good night.